fast, taught our church. They do a great job for our organization. And always have to say something great about John Henry, because if you don't know where we were and you're unaware of where we were before John took over, the guy's been a miracle worker, turning things around for us. I heard from someone that's very respected in the tennis world a couple of years ago that in order to be an expert in this country, it took two things: a plane and an accent. Well, obviously I drove here today, so I only got half of that. So I'm only half an expert. Before I forget too, I've got to thank Prince and Adidas because they're very nice to me. When we get on the first thing that happened was I came out here today. By the way, the presentation I'm doing for you today, I'm not rehearsed, I'm not practiced. I put it in an outline. Ken's been bugging me for about a week and a half. Give me an outline, give me an outline, give me an outline. I think he got it about 2 days ago. There's only one place where I have private time. I'm married, I work at a club, we run multiple operations, I got members to make happy, I got a wife to make happy, 2 daughters to make happy, and a dog who's actually worse than the wife and the kids because she can't talk. So she just barks and I have to guess. Okay? So, with that in mind, we're here today. When I came out, I looked at the court. And it's not in the presentation, but the first thing that I noticed was there were no lines in the court. Am I going to back it? No. How would you go about putting down 60-foot lines? I've seen this. I've seen it to where they go in. And it goes here. Right? But we're all concerned about measuring. If it's a tournament, I'm concerned about that. More practice. One there. Maybe one about there. Looks about right. Looks about right. That's it, my court's made. Don't panic if you go out and we don't have courts. Don't feel that your lines have to be perfectly made. Don't feel everything has to be straight. What's the worst that can happen? You miss a shot. Back will go on. The first thing I need to do now is I need to get, can I get one volunteer? I need somebody to help me pretend to be a 10-year-old. Jenny, where are you? Are you taking pictures? Can you help me? Come on over. Okay, so the first thing that I understand is that my presentation I'm giving you today, you guys over the last couple of years have been bombarded with how do I work with 10-year-olds, how do I put 6, 8, and 10 of them, and they're all doing something at the same time. None of them are standing around in lines. Am I right or am I wrong? There's this performance side of tennis. Players who get better, players who take better lessons. You have to get on the court with them privately. Does it happen just at the orange level? No, it starts at the red level. Are some of you doing red level private lessons? Put your hand up so you can see around that, yes, it happens. Okay? So the first thing we talk about is understanding and communicating to your client. Hey, I've been teaching for a long time, and like Jenny said that I have to be a mentor. I don't know if you realize that there's another responsibility of being one-on-one. And I admire everything you do. Is there someone you've been teaching for the last 10 years? Yeah. Is there someone you've been teaching for the last 12? Yeah. Good. Do you consider that that same person you've been teaching for 12 years, do you consider that that person is just a lesson? Or do you consider that that person is a relationship that you have with them? Yeah. And the hour becomes equally seeking moment by you and by them, because it is the time in which I get to find out what's going on with their wife, what's going on with the kids, what's going on with the grandkids. And the secret of this is you haven't got it yet. It's about building relationships. To build relationships, it's very rare that you find someone like me. Like my wife said, you're an open book, close yourself. She hates it when she's walking out the grocery store and somebody goes, oh, I'm so glad. And she's never met them before. But they've seen pictures of her with you. You heard that saying that actions speak louder than words? It's not just a saying. So, I got here for you minutes because you mentioned 10. Actually, let's go lower. There's a little bit more challenge. So, here's where you're aging. First of all, this is the first lesson you'll have you together. So, characteristics. You're not going to look in the eye. You're looking away from me at all times. You don't answer if it's not required with a word, if you can get away with it time. And if you do answer with a word, it has to be just one word. So you do not engage in conversation. Do we agree that sister, a typical 8-year-old that walks the court? Okay, what about if it's a female? We can probably say that we just multiply that by 2. If it's a boy and I'm a male, they tend to be a little bit more engaging, a little bit easier to walk. Not in the sense that it's I'll go to Julio. How are you there? Who are you in school? He's good. I know you guys over there. You know where? How come you not married? Good. And I just look at that. There's somebody married in the world. So I'm going to come up with Mary or John or Paul. Okay? But I'm going to come up with something that is she's immediately, if I said, do you know Mary? And there happens to be one Mary in her class or one Mary in her entire age group in that school, she's going to look at me and this is what happens immediately. Yes. And then the first time they'll make eye contact with me. And from then on, you have to continue this engaging. And then I go into, well, it's funny, you know, I have a girl, and then it's so, what female doesn't like a compliment? I just told she likes to come in the morning with pretty. And then I might go out of my phone, a cute picture that I can have a selfie where they're out there while the tennis court or racket, and I go, you see? And it reminds us connection that, oh wow, that's how he's perceiving me, that this is a good place. And then I've been to see where we play today. I want to you can do whatever you want. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. You don't know where we're going to go? Yeah. Here we go. She just looked funny. It's funny. I was trying to get her to engage me, to share something with me. I don't think she did it on purpose, but it just happened. So she just told me she liked blue, so now I'm going to, well, how do you do it? What are the things that are blue that are really good? You like the sky? You like the fly? Yeah. Good. She just told me that I'm going to have to be careful because she may try to start getting balls off in the air. And you may think the joke, but this is part of what we do. We're working primarily with kids at this age. I have to engage in, I have to connect with them, and to do so, the first thing I do is I open myself up. I start sharing myself. I start showing them what I want them to do in return. There's a very successful plan out there. She was 12. She was 12. So she was doing a great job. She was 12, we started working out. We worked out for about 8 to 10 hours a week privately. Guess how long it took for her to say more than yes, no, or not ahead? 6 months. About 6 months. And the very simple third player, he now won a national championship last year, he won. And she's senior this year. And how did I get her to open up? She's been to her, and I went time in this tournament is the one you're going to do well, it's going to be your breakout tournament. You're probably going to get into the quarters of the semis of the main girl. When you get there, you will face with one girl that will hit the ball through the court with enough velocity that you can't have your back. She's going to be a righty. She's going to think with her forehand with her backhand, and because you don't have a backhand down the line, you won't be able to bring the point around again before it comes to your forehand, and you're going to lose the match as a result of that. When that happens, you want me to help you with your backhand, let me know. I said all of that. All she said to me, she looked at me and she said, walk out the gate, win and play the tournament. And when she came back to that tournament, it was the first time that she walked on the tennis court, and I didn't say hello first. I remember I was sitting at the bench on my phone. She slammed the gate, she walked straight up to me, aggressively, looked at me and said, how did you know? With anger. And I looked at her and I smiled and said, I don't know what. Exactly what you predicted happened. The girl that beat me did exactly what you said I was going to do, and after not playing back on the line, all my back is screwed back up the middle, and then she'll run around the corner again. How did you know? And I looked at her and I said, I'm not good at it. Now can I have your trust? And she looked at me, didn't want to commit, and I said, you want to work the back end? She said yes. That was the first time that I could actually work on something with that girl that did something, and that was the first time that we actually engaged and connected. Now, I told you that now she's 12, she's senior in college now, she's going to talk about her about it. But there is a relationship. Yes, and there are people that I for 10, 12, 14 years, and it should never end. Put your wants and needs first. It's not about you, it's about them. Okay? How many of you have kids that are around 8 years old? God, you don't count. So I'm glad they're not. Good. Those of you who put your hands up. Who's Dora? The Explorer. Good. Who's Backpack? Yes, but who is Backpack? Backpack is the backpack that you have on your back that carries all the solutions for the problems. You need to know these things. You're talking in their world. They're very centered. You need to become familiar with the things that matter to them. So when we're out there and Jennifer breaks down and is not doing something right, I go, hey Jennifer, let's go over here. Let's get a water break. Let's see if we can find a backpack where we can get that point. And we pretend we have a backpack. They love pretending. I pretended this morning for 45 minutes on the phone that both of my daughters were taking my order for breakfast. They're 8 and 5. 45 minutes when I went for breakfast, and they were touching a minute like the way. Great interview. And it has to go beyond the court. I have to find out where Jennifer goes to school, who Jennifer's friends are, what Jennifer likes to eat, the things that she doesn't like, what colors are her favorite colors, why does she like those shoes instead of the other ones. I need to find out who she is. How do I get to find out who she is? Because she tells me. How do I get her to tell me? I told you a minute ago. I started telling her who I am. What are the things that I like in this life? And that opens the door, shows her a pattern of behavior that she probably at some point in time, if I endure the session, she will share with me. She will engage me. Introduce routines and rituals. Okay? Can I hear somebody else aside from Jennifer? Come on, man. Put your hands together for this no more. There's 2 options. routines. Okay? Not only rituals or routines are important for a tennis player, they're important for what? What do you do every morning? I can tell you what I do because I share it with where is she? I share it with her for one of my years. The first thing I do in the morning is I look at my phone. Usually I wake up before my phone alarm goes off, the entire personality. So I beat the phone to it. I gotta beat everything, I gotta beat everybody. So I'm doing the alarm that I set for no reason because I do it every day. And then I look at my emails, and after I look at everything, and I look at my wife and I say good morning, and I get up and I go to the bathroom, and I'm not gonna do the rest of it. There's a routine, there's a ritual. Routine and rituals. What's the word can happen? You do it wrong? And if you do it wrong, what happens? Nothing. We fix it. Never lose an opportunity like that. We all live, especially children, are growing up in an environment and society that are very concerned about being right and being accepted. This is a sport. Isn't this about being who can find a way to be less wrong? When they're competing and they're playing. So we need to introduce the fact that it's a safe environment to be wrong. And that when wrong happens here with my actions, I don't make a big deal about it. What's the worst thing that I could have done right there? Watch. Jennifer! How many times have I told you that's not the right way? Lord. You keep going. That's my favorite one because I sit around and talk to people going. Normally, I'll see pros or teachers at school do that to children. So they're doing to them what they don't want them to do. Okay? And afterwards, they don't even tell them what it was that was going wrong. It's like they're supposed to guess. I never forget the tennis pro when I was about, thank you guys. Actually, get the rackets. No, get your rackets. Take your pick, put the racket with you. Your favorite color. Good. You're going to get one orange ball, and I want you guys to start rallying with certain box or certain box. Only orange. Until you get 50. Then switch to only rackets, and then switch to alternating ones and rackets until you get 50 of each of those. Got it? What happens if you miss? No, nothing. So, did I just give them a ritual? Yes. Especially in your private lessons, starting with the same thing, and after you start with the same thing, doing almost the same identical warm-up drill will be extremely beneficial because it creates a safe environment. You know what's coming. There's nothing worse. We feel at times that we need to navigate things. No, I know God stated this. Miriam Nixon ever sees this, she's trying to kill me. Miriam Nixon, I taught her for about 10 years every Friday morning from 11 to 12. She will be teaching the doing because I moved, and Miriam Nixon left me for 10 years. She did not want to change. She avoided that. We need rituals and routines before, during, and after. So what will be there before? The dynamic. What will be there during? Your warm-up part. However you want to do it. You want to do it empty, do it empty. You want to do a rack clean, do a rack clean. You want to let them, you want to do it eyeball with them, do it eyeball with them. Okay? And what is the after? It could be your closing. It could be something that we get together. Getting you to great today. We work with the recording, we work with the passport, and then when the passport is recognized, and whatever is not the line, and we can cross the line, it's not important. Lay that out and we summarize. Okay? Don't talk down to them, don't treat them like they're done. So come out and share with them. The same way that you would explain to a 25, 35-year-old adult you're teaching at the end of summary, you can summarize with them. To some of them, it won't summarize because you know they don't like it. some of them, they're not serious about it. So you know they don't like any of them. So I simply go, dude, you did awesome today. That's it, it's like, that's it. And that becomes a ritual. But there are things that happen the same. Why is that ritual at the end important? If it was a review, whatever it was, but what is it creating? It creates, we're going back to get to the same environment, predictable. When I'm always doing the same thing at the end, he knows if I'm pleased or displeased with what he did. Does that make sense? Bye guys, I'm going to make it. Don't worry, you'll see the same back. You're worried about 5 minutes early. Maybe you're not amazing. You're an amazing player of life. Hang in here with me. The next one, I need to evaluate. Because I'm getting a player at the orange level that was supposed to already have gone to what? The red level. So when they get to me, they're supposed to what? Yes. In my case, very specific. I want the player to be able to open up the court. I want the player to be able to get to open spaces. Once he gets to open spaces, not back onto the player, then recognize what becomes open as a result of where they get their shot and be able to execute shots from that open space. I want him to be able to serve, I want him to be able to return, and I want him to be able to be score. And in the mental side, I want him to be able to handle some failure and some adversity. And things don't always go right, and they don't always make the shots, and then when it happens, it opens down to something proud. Okay? What happens is when I make that evaluation with orange, I find out they don't have those. That becomes the first thing that I have to know in orange. So I can't go along this process if they don't have that. Simply bumping the ball back to each other is not finished. Okay? I love when they go, well, my team was ready to get out of this record thing because I had a rally with them yesterday, 75 balls. No. Tell me when you're consistently having rallies of 4 or 5 that she's waiting for you. Because she moves you, you recognize openings, and she takes control and executes. Now she's ready to move on the record. But it's a difficult one. It's a little over a private club, but we have to meet the needs of the client. So can you develop that skill in the orange? Yes. Now, is there some technique skill as well? Yes. Do I want them to be able to turn and hit the ball on the side? Yes. Do I want them to someone have their hand behind the back of the grip? Yes. Do I want them to be able to move their feet to address an incoming ball and be able to receive a ball? Yes. Any other skill that you think I did in red that I didn't just mention? Do they need to understand? Okay, so she just brought a good point. She said volleys, and then I love her. She's going to fix it. I'm not sure she fixed it or yes. Why do I look at her funny when she says volleys on the right court? Because transition game is not something that's well on the right court. I can put a kid at the net and throw balls to them and they can volley all day long. Or if you put them in the content of play and tell yourself to come to the net on a rec court and leave the ball that the player can move one step forward and strike, go ahead and try to make your game from that ball. And that's use a full developed adult with full ability where eyes and brain and everything is fully developed. You actually see your vision is a higher level than some of the children are playing at that level. So, you can work for volley, but it's not an essential thing because it's not, volley doesn't really fall into a playing pattern. But technique-wise, what else? I'm looking at the ground strokes. So what else am I missing? Well, I want to go into here. If you're really thinking you can. I do. Yeah. But you don't have to. This will be something very separate. As long as I got some at the right place. Okay? Do I want to see some power through? Yes. Here's one that is critical for me to understand that a player is ready to move and to come into my orange world. They need to understand for me what a little swing, a medium swing, and a big swing are. And when do I use the right pitch and why do I use it? Okay? If you've tried this before, you take the kid out, you start throwing balls at them, and you tell them that their swing is supposed to go here, and then you tell them to go from here to here, and then you try to go bump the ball with them, good luck. Because before you taught them a small swing, you taught them a big swing. This is the swing that takes the ball from their baseline to the other baseline, not the swing that gently bumps the ball over to them in order to receive and send the ball to the development line. So I suggest you always start with bumping and show them what little swing is. If the little swing goes into space, and then show them what medium swing is. Medium swing goes medium speed, medium distance, and then show them what the big swing is. Because there's different swings on going and back here, not all the same. But what do they all have in common? If it's a little swing and it's a forearm, is it here? No. A little swing on my forearm. A little swing on my back. That's the way that I see often that we'll break down the lesson. If they're going to work on the little swing to be able to develop rapidly, around the field, and immediately go into or it goes into what's wrong with me right now? How do I do it? Well, you're going to figure it out. And can you blame me? If rubber got play, this is going to go like this. It's not a natural emotion. This is a lot more natural. That's what they do. But if you bring it to their attention, they're pretty, most of them are willing to work with you. Create a social reward system that is visual, so they see that the other ones are getting visual rewards for doing things right. You don't use the reward system to get them to compete against each other. You use the reward system to stimulate us to want to be better at what you do. And the answer to be better is follow that. So after evaluating technically and tactically, my kid's ready to come into the orange board. Now we're in the orange board. What are the new skills that I introduce on the orange board? Transition is one of them. Now let's think about this whole thing as it will happen from where they're coming from. Because right now they're playing transition or they're playing the baseline. In red, mostly play the baseline. Good. So let's think how things will happen from the baseline on that will create the need for transition. So then transition makes sense. Okay? And the first one that comes to mind is I have to be able to start hitting angular shots. On the red court, angular shots really don't exist because the court is too narrow and too short. But in an orange court, we're starting to look for them to take a ball that part of the court and go from that side and hit targets from this area here that are crossing this sideline and this sideline before they cross the baseline. Does that make sense? Now, that ball, once they get the skill to execute that shot, that ball then creates the chance to open up the court and execute where they already learned to do in red, which is my opponent over there, I do it over there. Okay? Now, that brings in my first clue that a kid that shows up to play a tournament in orange is mostly playing with yellow balls. This was for a big brown. If I want to take a guess, how I can see two kids playing and look at one kid and know that that kid showed up to play at a Orange Bowl tournament, but that kid mostly playing with yellow balls. Oh, what are the... Sorry. Nope. Yes, they give ground. They don't maintain the baseline. If they see an incoming ball, they're here, they see a certain trajectory of height and traveling distance, and they start backing up the way they would based on the way a yellow ball will react. On the orange court, I don't give ground. And the red court, what is my pattern of movement? The players only move side to side. On an orange court, what's my pattern of movement? Side to side, forward, and backwards. But I just told you that I don't give ground. Yeah, it's backwards to recover. Because I got to move into two steps, and the ball wasn't short enough to get to the bottom of the net. So I have to move backwards to recover. But it's not backwards to receive and recover. Okay? So going back again, they learned that from the baseline, they execute short angular creates openings. Now they have to learn the element of time. Because now they have to learn that if they take that ball on the rise, and they take it earlier, they give that player more or less time to get back in position. Less. So far we developed angular, cross-court shot, shallow shots. I refer to it as attacking to the front of the court. We don't always attack to the back of the court, we can also attack to the front of the court. And then when you attack to the front of the court, you don't let that player off the hook. You got the chicken by the neck, excuse them until they die. So whenever they send you back, they're trying to take as early as possible to the open court. And then you have to kind of feel if you're in a gaining position, a dominant position then on the point, if you are, you follow it in. If you're not, then what do? You have to retreat back. I also refer to the service line as the non-return line. So to me, if I'm working with you and you're 10 or 8, once you get in the area where we're physically standing near this line and you try to roll, it's not an option anymore to go back. From here I'm going in. So if you look at it, we went down, we just created a reason to go to the net. We created a reason to transition. So we're building the game from where? From where it starts at the back, and how it will develop. And then things make sense. In this way, players are play, we have a plan, instead of just simply, hey, we're playing today, I'm 10, I want you to know, I can keep this pop ball. How many do you think? Yeah, that's what I thought. We don't want that, because if he's good, you're going to go, oh, that's great to know. Because I'm going to get after the shot. You're going to float it out of the leg, which is very progressive. I might be able to give you some of those out of the year. Now, we get to the part of the approach and transitioning into the net. What am I looking at the approaches? For them to understand location and the relation of what they defend the court. How many of you work with 16 and 18-year-olds? How do you use the transition? Good. Whatever your philosophy is with 16 to 18-year-olds, same as your kids. No different. I'm not going to settle to, oh, you bump it there, and you come in here with your spanky break, and you flap it in. No. They should look exactly the same your 16 and 18-year-old look when they're executing and coming in. Why? Let's look at things of why you may not be able to accomplish that. Good they have some athletic limitations? Yes. Could they have some physical limitations? Yes. Could they have some time limitations? They don't play enough. Yes. But I'll bring you a big secret. Mark shows up to take lessons. My job is not to make sure that Mark does it. My job is to show up every day, ready to do my part, to contribute, to give Mark the opportunity for him to develop. Because I get used to it. You're going to work with something for a lifetime, and you still won't be able to do it. And it doesn't mean you failed. It means there was some limitations. But it doesn't mean the journey cannot be an enjoyable one for them and for you. It's only not enjoyable if one thing happens. Mark, I need you to pay attention. How many times have you heard some girls tell that their kids that they are being involved? Because they will not be able to do what they're asking them to do. I've got myself doing it. Do you really think Mark doesn't want to pay attention? You can say sometimes they don't. And I'm going to tell you sometimes if they don't, you got to be there. Sometimes they don't. How can you pay attention to one? No. No. Some of them are having fun because they know they're making the right decision. You have to make it right here. You have to want, they have to want to do things because they want to please you, even if they hate things. Even if they're there because mom is forcing me, or I have to be here. But you want it to be because the moment mom walks in the door, I want to do this. What's going on? Can I do that? Good. How's lunch? Okay. What did you do first? You got some time. That was it. And you, I mean, that's exactly how I would do it. Did you notice my change? Talk. And I open the door. And so you might be in a situation that you might say, I've been through where you did for 20 years, I wanted to honor this. 20 years later, I don't do it. I thought they hated me. I thought they hated me. I thought they never wanted to be there. I don't recognize them. But they come to me and say, Mr. Julio, it's me, John. How are you? Johnny Food. Look at Johnny from chemistry. And Johnny can go to the United But Johnny will bring it to my attention. Eventually, I put the two together. So, our job is to show up and do what? The best we can every day. And your job will be a lot easier if you learn to walk with the court with the assumption that your student is there to do what you're doing, which is to do the best they can do every day. And I've been bringing up to their attention when they did. Mark is being a little rebellious, Mark giving me a hard time. I look at Mark and I go, Mark, you know what? I choose to live my life by one assumption. You know what assumption is? Yeah, be careful with your words too. Okay? And it's going to explain it. You say, no, I don't know what assumption is. Okay, you know what assumption is? Good. Well, I choose Every lesson has to take time away. We talked about the mid-court ball. So I don't have to go into my own philosophy or approach that line and come here with the court, and the ball's high, it goes there, the ball's low, it goes there. You're going to have your own little philosophy. Okay, that's a whole other division if you want to say one line tactical philosophy. And then what shot does the net game include? Yes. You over there. Introducing to the fact that when you're coming here, we're not here to just pick up strawberries or cherries. Okay? We're here to pick up strawberries, cherries, and apples. What does I say apples? Again, what are we talking about? Their world. So if I'm working, if it's that term that I just used, that's a 10-year-old. If it's red ball, I go into ants and flames. I mean, if I'm working on something that involves and I want to keep the eye down, I need to look at the ants. The ground school ants are the ones that get you. You gotta be looking for them. You need the ants to get down. Some of them were exaggerated so much at first, you're not going to do it. But then you work your way back to that. And if I'm working with something that's above the head, is there serve? Okay, I want you to put that plane where you want it to be so it's safe, and then I want you to do it. And the plane, of course, becomes full. Serve and return. On the red court, what do we want you to do with the serve and return? Give me a get the point started. Okay? In orange, what do I ask the 16 and 18-year-old to have? What's this? What's this? Not so flat, sir. Flat, sir. I want him to have a flat, sir. I want him to have, what's this? I want him to have a slice, and what's this? I want him to have I want all three on the phone. Can we have all three on the phone? So again, I don't believe in red ball to teach them with this, just so they can experience success. Kids don't mind failing. We mind them failing. They don't like it. Okay? I put them immediately here, and I show them here's what I want you to do, and then try to do your best. And if they're struggling emotionally because they're not being successful, what do I do? For every 5 tries that you give me and you don't complain about it, you get sticker. I come up with that reward system for the effort and the desired intention, not missing the outcome. So I want the 3 serves, and then I want the 3 spots. What are the 3 spots that we tell the players to serve at 16 and 18? Middle wide body. I want them to be able to, in orange, start thinking about middle wide body and the ability to get multiple serves to those multiple locations. So I want them to be able to, for example, on the outside, to be able to go flat wide and to be able to go full wide. Does that make sense? How many times have I said now, when you teach me 16 and 18? Then I come back and I say 17 and 10. This guys are wicked, guys. Because if they quit them, instead of them, they're not with us. There's no limitation that they cannot physically do things. They can't. We can set limitations and they can do it. Or when we expose them to something, and when we do it against it 3 times, we think, oh, they're going to be upset. They're only going to be upset if we lead them to the fact of being upset. Some of them give permission to be upset already. So some of them, we miss 2 or 3 times, yes or no? Mark. Okay. Look, you're doing the best. I know you're in a situation in life, school, church, what would you miss out on something you really, really love? You're not going to be able struggle to do it when we have 6 in the court. So that's why the teacher, all they can do is, Mark, shut up and sit down. And Mark gets in trouble. Do you know why the players go into this reaction when they're missing at something? To diffuse a possible attack that will come their way because they're already punishing themselves. So it's a way in which they either delay the attack, or they eliminate the attack, or they lessen the attack. So all you have to do is bring out that there's not going to be an attack. And you have to make sure that your actions also back that up. If your actions don't back that up, then it's not going to work. And I'm going to tell you that if you back that up for 3 months, and for 5 seconds, Jeff, next up one day, it's going to take me about 4 or 5 more months to get to it. But there's a little bit of a shortcut to earn Jeff's trust again. And it's a perfect setup for the message you're trying to give. Jeff. Remember the other day you were Eagles going into a net and I got mad at you and I yelled at you? I went home, I thought about it and I realized I was wrong. I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? You're entitled to not forgive me. But I want you to know that I know that I always hurt your feelings. I want you to know that your feelings matter to me. And I want you to know that I was not my intention to hurt you. If you ever found it in your heart to forgive me, I appreciate it. But if you don't, I perfectly understand this. I'm way out of line. Now here's what we're going to do. And I believe it. How many of you think you're happy today? What's the secret? Jeff, I am really sorry. You're forgiving today? Well, sweetheart, I know that you're not even forgiving. It's the same thing. Return obligations. Okay? And red goal, what are we looking to do with the return? Get the point started. And orange goal. 68-year-old choreographer. Returning from right here. You take your straight back and left. Somebody tell me, when you reach the 16-year-old from right here to play circles? Where do I hit it? You want to go down the line? See, we got different philosophies. I love when you can go short shot with the and if that player chooses to run the ball down, the next one's the winner. Okay? If that player chooses to not run the ball down, because I'm already in the sport, then that's going to be the winner. So that's perfect. That's teaching philosophy. Well, you saw that we're not going to use that one yet. That's the position you simply get the ball back and down. So you start looking on the return of serve, get them to understand when do I teach it surviving and commanding. I'm playing someone with a big serve, I am trying to survive, which means I stay alive and win. I find a way to get my ball back. I'm playing someone with a weak serve, I am commanding. I am the commander of the ship, and I dictate here where the sailors go, and that's where my sailors are there. So no more you getting the ball back and play. We learn with each other to take control of the return serve. How to compete. In red, we don't do that. Are more points now important than others? Yes. Bring it to their attention. You have 3 all. Okay? In the second set, you lost the first one 5-3. And you can waiting ball set long to break serve, and you get a great point, and what do? You already get it wide. We got to get those points started. We have to pass on the ball. When you return that ball, you're feeling with pressure, right? I want to get out of that for a chance to play how to deal with it. I want to play how to play. I don't want to be looking at how to deal with it. So think about how to teach them about their ability to differentiate points. Which points and how they're structured, their shot selection based on the kind of point regardless of the scoring that they're playing. Unfair. Is tennis fair? I trained hard, I worked hard, I should have won that match. Okay, but you didn't, so what do you do about it? You want to work? Unfair. So you have to get given ways in which they're going to be able to handle that things are not fair. Those are introducing the teaching methodology. I can come out today and which were you seriously now tournament volleyball player with we can work today and we need to be on the fair to see how we can. So I was surprised with it. I let him go ahead of time. And if he's really finding a lot of trouble handling it, I might give him already a couple of ways in which he can handle it. To see which one we choose to execute when we're playing today and he hits the ball that's 3 feet in and I go out. That is dealing with surprises. I refer to the surprises. You're playing a match and you're heading outside the court, you get you call the ball out and you can hear that guy and go, oh my God, no way, that ball is way in. To you to be the first time to deal with that was different. I knocked a college coach out. The guy was in the match, and he would come in, he was trying to coach, right, was doing his job, but he would come by the head coach and he would kneel down there like a ball boy. My flat serve got away from him. And it happened to me right this afternoon. And it's not believable. Those are surprises. So we have to teach these kids how to handle those surprises that don't involve knocking the other coach out. The arrogance is, this may happen, we have to set the ground. And the last one, we have to give them the behavior patterns that we want them to replace with what they normally would do. One of the worst things that we do as coaches, Kenneth, if I'm teaching Kenneth and Kenneth missing a forehead, do I just look at Kenneth and go, Kenneth, stop listening? Or do I tell Kenneth what pattern of behavior is going to replay what he's doing so they can experience success? Well, if Kenneth is going to rack all over the place, Kenneth, don't go to rack. That means that you just tell him to go get your forehead. Kenneth, I know you're disconnected. If you really need to control the racket, then just bring the racket up and that's Kenneth in place. So I'm going to give him a behavior to replace the one that we don't want to have anymore. Okay, dead ball drills. Do you believe in dead ball drills? Yeah. And everybody. I mean, it's funny when I hear all these conferences and all these presentations where, well, we don't want them to be standing in line, everything's heavy. And then I can go into YouTube and Google 1 million videos of the tour players making dead balls. There's a place for it. Which one is not a lesson? Now, your dead ball drills, okay, they normally would start either racket fed or they would start hand fed and then evolve into racket fed. Because we're trying to go from hand fed to racket fed to small space rally to larger space rally to reality of rally, which is the context in which you need to play.
Julio, 5 minutos.
Man, you're tough.
Él.
I know. I looked at him. Live ball drills. Live ball drills are the other way around. Live ball drills, we start live, so we're either, if the live ball drill breaks down, where do I go first from the fixing? I go to racket fed. If racket fed's still not doing it, where do I go? To hand fed. And then once I fix it on hand fed, where do I go back? Racket fed. And then where do I go back to again? Live ball, and you always see it again. Does that make sense? Okay. Situational play, and you see there on my hand I said serve, and you're going to start working will really respect you if I start seeing you where, okay, I want you to serve wide, I want you to recover, and then a ball's going to come to your forehead, I want you to gain ground with it and go down the line. Why do I say I really respect you if you start doing that? That's how it relates to play. So think of what you want the end to be. Are they going to look when they're playing, the things you want them to do when they're playing, and then work their way back to work on it. And the same thing happens with the return. Do the return of serve in the +1 or +2 or even +3. By the way, decide to do a racket thing. Okay? And then you know to return a ball here. Okay? And from here, you hit a ball down the line. And you told them from down the line, you hit the ball cross court. Don't feed the next ball from here. Move your behind over there and feed the next ball from over there. If you want to feed it. Why do I say that? It's the relation as it relates to play. We're teaching kids how to play. We're not teaching kids how to look great at hitting tennis balls. Questions? And you have, I left you 3 minutes. Come on, somebody. Yes. Out of airport, and they told them to leave, and then when they walk by and go, I look at them, and then he laughed. Yeah, he thought that when they go out, people are not going to red ball, it's a skill or age-wise? Skill is what? Size. This is what we know. Okay? How many of you have seen this outstanding volleyball players that look basically like a 14-year-old that go like this, they go to the back, they go like this, they go to the back, and they cover the entire court, and the kid will actually get some experience. That kid should be playing. Sorry, cheers. Are you doing a disservice to an orange ball so that can teach an orange to be playing with a regular yellow? Yes, you're... Okay, I'll answer. If you're taking a kid that's supposed to be playing orange and plays with orange and plays with yellow, you're doing a disservice to that kid. But if you're taking a kid going that plays with regular, you don't play with orange, and play with red, no disservice, perfectly fine. They're teaching tools once you reach a certain limit. And for the orange ball, it's only the yellow one you can cast. You get away with trying to do that.
Se acabó. Cortala.
Last question I answer. The question is, I got a kid that got really late, about 12. I inherited that case. The kid's already been playing with yellow, but Joe probably should be playing with red. What do? First, I have to come to the thing and see if I get them on board. If I do, then I can do it. If I don't get the thing on board, I'm going to work with the yellow and work with the manipulated system. So the yellow can do that needs to go, and I'm going to do white. Yes? That I think. Okay. But if the question comes, if that people are up with you, who cares? Or going to somewhere else with their system and not there at all, like they have dealt with other guys. When Do not isolate the family. More important for you is to communicate with the parents than it actually is to communicate with